All right. Well, thank you, Brandy, and the whole Creative Mornings Columbus team. This has been a really crazy week for me. When Brandy actually reached out, she sent me an email, and I looked at the date, and I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. But I told her I was flattered, and I just kind of prefaced it by saying, like, all right, we'll see how this goes. So if my thoughts are like a little less than concise, or if I seem a bit tired, or my throat's a little scratchy, there's a reason. There's a reason why, and here it is. So last night I documented this kind of tribal gathering of nomads and seekers from across the country who descend on this area once a year and participate in a kind of communal celebration and experience. It's a really beautiful but also very chaotic experience, watching it and documenting it. But folks who come, they're in search of healing and connection and community. And the way that that manifests itself is through music and dancing and a kind of cleansing communal shower. And a lot of the folks who come, they talk about how this cleansing and this community, it like cleanses their spirit of the kind of the pain and the trauma of daily life and of their past. So as this is taking place, it kind of crescendos into this, very spontaneous, ecstatic rush in which people kind of emerge from the crowd and throw themselves over this barricade, and they kind of take the stage, and they then become essentially like the leaders, the preachers, and they shout out this kind of chant that demonstrates the bond that they have with their community. I'll play a little. This is a little video of kind of where I was last night, or like from my perspective, what this looked like. So for those of you who are kind of wondering like what they just saw, that's the Gathering of the Juggalos. And for those who aren't familiar with the Gathering of the Juggalos, it's organized by the Insane Clown Posse, which is a rap horror duo that dresses like demented clowns. And the music that they make, it's darkly comedic, and also it's just dark. But it speaks to the pain and the experience of many folks who have been otherwise kind of rejected by society. And I'll talk a little bit more about this community later. I've been documenting them for 5 years. But I just wanted to share a little bit about where I was last night, and if my voice is a little scratchy, or if I'm kind of my thoughts trail off. That's why I'm still recovering, and I'm probably a little dehydrated. So, before I talk about the Juggalos further and share a little bit more about the rest of my work, I wanted to just kind of dive into today's theme and frame our conversation around what I think nomads are. To me, a nomad is a seeker. It's someone that's not rooted in their way of thinking. They're fluid and not static. They're fluid in location, in thought, in the techniques that they use, and even the medium. This openness to opportunities and experiences, it allows you to redefine your home, your family, your community, your values. And this can kind of manifest itself in a lot of ways. A nomad could be somebody who's literally living on the road and traveling from place to place. And I've met folks like that, and I'll share some of their photos and some stories as well. But it can also be somebody who changes careers. It can be somebody who changes work locations because they're ready for a new experience, they're ready for new growth and new opportunity. It can be more of a spirit than a way of life. And as creatives, I think it's something that's worth exploring within each of us. And I think it's something that can unlock opportunities that maybe we didn't previously think were possible. So my photography consists of two distinct practices. This is my commercial studio, Wonder and Wander, which is an appropriate name for my studio given today's theme. This is how I pay my bills mostly. But I also have a documentary practice, and the two actually inform and inspire each other. And they're both based on principles of radical curiosity, empathy, originality, and collaboration. Today, I'll be sharing work mostly from my documentary practice. I think that speaks more to the work or the kind of the theme that we're doing today. And also, if I'm being honest, that's the work that enriches my kind of day-to-day existence, and it's the work that I'm the most excited about. Appropriate to today's theme, I have a series I call Fellow Travelers that is based on the kind of quirky and colorful characters that I've met when I'm on the road traveling. This is Laura. I met Laura at Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota. She taught herself to play the harp 37 years ago. I was leaving the park on a long road trip for an assignment in Oregon. And so I had been on the road for a little while. And, when you're on the road and you're traveling, even the most beautiful thing can eventually become a little bit like, I'd love to stop, but I don't have time to stop. I have to go. I got to get to this next place. And when you're in a new place, that kind of happens a lot. And I've been trying to resist that urge whenever I can. So I'm leaving the park, and I see this woman sitting in front of a prairie, a golden prairie, with wild bison just walking around behind. And next to her is this giant harp. She's dressed entirely in pink. She's wearing a pink hat, a pink cowboy hat. And I'm like, come on. I'm not going to not stop. Believe it or not, some people didn't. They just kept going. But so I pulled over and I talked to her. And she told me about her experience of learning, teaching herself to play the harp. And we shared some thoughts, and she told me that she wears pink. She had rejected it for the longest time because she didn't like the connotations that come along with it in our society. But then over time, she recognized that for her, pink is the color that vibrates closest to God. And so she wears pink almost exclusively now, and she prefers to play the harp with the earth. So she goes out on a regular basis and just plays harp in the open. Here's a few more from the Fellow Travelers series. Talking to talking to and photographing strangers doesn't come naturally to me. I'm a Midwesterner. I'm fairly modest. I don't want to make people feel like I'm imposing on them or inconveniencing them. Even today, when I take photos, I kind of check in on a regular, especially if it's a stranger. I check in like just a little bit longer. I promise. And they're always like, "It's been 30 seconds, guy." Like, you know, I just don't want anyone to feel inconvenienced. So for years, I didn't photograph strangers because I was too shy, and I missed a lot of opportunities. And then finally, one day, I kind of unlocked something, which was that I thought to myself, like, what's the worst that's going to happen if I ask a stranger to take their photo? And if I'm being rational, the worst that will happen is that they'll say no. And to this day, I've photographed thousands of people, and I can count on two hands the number of people who have said no. And I've met countless people this way, using my camera as like a conversation starter, or kind of like a magical key to unlocking those conversations with strangers. The last few years especially, I feel like as a culture, as a society, we've retreated inward. First out of necessity because of the pandemic, and then out of comfort and ease. There's something comforting in the familiar, and the messiness and unpredictability of talking to strangers and approaching people outside of our bubble. It's uncomfortable sometimes, but by retreating from that, we lose something. And my practice looks to reverse that trend, for both myself and for others. So my aim is to create work that helps people better understand others, to see the common values that we all have, the common values and the common desires that we all have. So my documentary work centers primarily on subcultures. People build community around their own values, sometimes because they reject the values of the dominant culture, but often because the dominant culture has rejected them or failed to meet their needs. So in my practice, as Brandy mentioned, I've documented semi-professional wrestlers, bodybuilders, dog shows, remote control airplane pilots, biker rallies, Renaissance festivals, rodeos, political protests and rallies, identical twins, mudders, demolition derbies, cosplayers, people who have pet skunks, twins, and juggalos, just to name a few. And there's one universal desire that I've seen over and over again, which is that we all just want to belong and be understood. I've learned a lot about other humans and a lot about myself. One of the things I've learned is that people will go to incredible lengths to follow their passion and find connection and community. This sense of community and desire to be seen, it looks different in each group. It could be a bull rider who puts their life on the line by jumping on the back of a 1-ton bull. It could be a grandfather that meets up in the middle of a field outside of Grove City with a handful of other grandfathers mostly to fly a 30-year-old remote control airplane once a week. It could also be a cosplayer who spends countless hours handcrafting a costume so that they can wear it at a convention and for the first time in a long time feel like their true self. People, they put their bodies at risk, they spend thousands of dollars and countless hours just to feel like themselves, just to feel like they can really, truly be themselves. I personally think it says a lot about our society that for some folks, the only way to feel like their true selves is to take a step away from society, from culture. And for some folks, they literally have to put on a mask because they don't feel like society accepts them for who they are. In my experience, people are weird and wild and unpredictable and absolutely wonderful. This fleeting chance at connection and acceptance and fulfillment, it's something that exists within all of us. The communities that I document and the values that they're seeking around connection and acceptance, they're the antidote to the hollow and false promise of consumption. They are like a striking alternative to the algorithmic-driven conflict and polarization of much of the online experience that has now trickled into our day-to-day life. Which brings me back to the Gathering of the Juggalos. For the uninitiated, the Gathering is an annual music festival that the Insane Clown Posse has been hosting for 25 years. Fans of ICP are known as Juggalos, and they often paint their faces in elaborate makeup. They will come to this festival and in search of connection, community, an opportunity to just be. The two members of ICP are Violent J and Shaggy Two Dope. And as part of the stage show, ICP and an army of like anonymous clowns, they spray their audience with Faygo. And if you don't know what Faygo is, it's like a budget cola brand that's based out of Detroit, and which is where ICP is from. And on the last song of their set, which is the same one every time, the fans hear it, and they begin to storm the stage. So first it's just one or two people, and then it's three or four, and then it's a dozen or more, and they're just coming over the barricade, which is like this high. They're falling on top of each other. It's a little bit like a baptism, and for Juggalos, it kind of rejuvenates and cleanses their soul and spirit. The atmosphere at the Gathering, it's very anarchic, it's chaotic, but it's also incredibly welcoming. It's kind of it's a little bit of a anything goes kind of place, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, or if you are hurting someone else, as long as they consent to it. Like the guy on the left, on my left, your right, he was earning money by allowing people to staple dollar bills to his body. Yeah. And there's an expression that hurt people. And sometimes the people they hurt are themselves. But what happens at the Gathering is that people who have been through tremendous amounts of trauma, they've either experienced directly or indirectly addiction, oftentimes physical abuse, sexual abuse, incarceration. When those folks find themselves at the bottom, when they look around and there's no one else there for them, the only people that offered a hand were Juggalos. And when they did, those Juggalos said, "You're family here, and I don't care how you got here. I've been there myself, and you're family." So for folks who have been coming, they often come back year after year. I've met Juggalos who've been to 13, 14, 15 different gatherings. They used to change locations every year because it was so chaotic that the venues that they would have it would be like, "You're not welcome back here." But as ICP's gotten older and so have their fans, they've kind of accepted things like, okay, maybe we shouldn't allow people to burn couches or set off fireworks. So they've put in some rules, most of which people go along with. And they found a venue host out at Legend Valley and Thornville, which is just like 35 minutes from here, who have welcomed them back now for 5 years. So that's where I was last night. That's where I'm going back to later today and throughout the weekend. So at the Gathering, they're free to be who they are. They're not judged for where they've been or how they express themselves. As long as they're not hurting anyone else, you're free to do whatever. And I don't know about you, but I don't necessarily want to staple dollar bills to my body, but I think we can probably all relate with the idea of just wanting to be ourselves, but not really feeling like we had the opportunity. And I think that maybe our culture and society would benefit from microdosing a little bit of the gathering. Really quick, this year I decided to take some formal portraits of juggalos, and these are two that I made on Tuesday night. And I just really wanted to kind of elevate the subject matter. A lot of the photos I've taken in the past are kind of amongst the kind of the chaos of the event, and so this year I've done some formal portraits, and I lugged my whole little kind of outdoor studio and set it up inside the gathering, which has been fun and also very tiring. But this feeling of being seen and accepted and understood, it's universal, and I think we could all use a little bit more of it. I think that when you relinquish control and you set aside judgment and you engage with people from a place of curiosity and empathy, really wonderful, quirky, unpredictable things can happen. Remember Laura from the beginning? Do we have audio now? I want to make sure we have audio. So after taking her photo, we were just chatting, and I heard this really beautiful chorus of like humming and harmony, and I was like, what is going on? And so this is what was happening. Yeah, so we had just been talking, and then this happened, and she was just kind of like, yeah, that's just what happens, you know? But to me, I was like, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, this is the kind of magic that happens when you open yourself up to the world and its possibilities. And so I just hope that all of us can maybe find space to do a little bit more of that. That's me.